In this video, I'll show you how to grow black walnuts plants from seeds. So the first thing you want to do is get good quality seeds. And how you do that, you want to get seeds that are in current season, or if you don't have access to it, maybe you could go online or search for where you could get some black walnut seeds. And after you get walnut seeds, you need to dehusk them and test them. So one thing you probably don't want to do is get black walnuts, or maybe walnuts, English walnuts, from a store, because those walnuts may be 2 to 3 years old and their viability would be very low. I personally have tried to grow English walnut from getting a bag of walnuts from store, and the rate of success is maybe if you had like 50 walnuts, you might get 1 or 2 that sprout if you're lucky. So best thing is to get fresh ones, and the fresh ones you need to dehusk them. That means removing the outer covering, and then you want to test them to see if they're any good. So one way to do that is to get a bucket of water and just drop them in the bucket and see if they float. If they float, that means that they're no good. If they sink down, that means that they're likely to be viable. So let's do that test first. I'll drop some walnuts and see which one floats. So it looks like we have several walnuts, 4 of them that float. So you know that they're bad, and the other ones are good. So make sure you throw the bad ones out, because there's no point in planting them because they're not going to grow. You're virtually 99% sure that they won't grow. And so after you have selected your walnuts, there are 2 ways that I know of how to grow walnuts from seeds, and I'll show you both methods, and I'll show you which one I prefer. And the reason that I'm going to show you is because in the area that I live in, which is Atlanta, Georgia, there are a lot of squirrels and chipmunks. So during winter time, if you don't protect your walnuts, they will eat them. The walnuts have a strong smell. Also, the squirrels have very strong nose, and it could dig up walnuts with no problem. So you want to protect the walnuts from these critters, and you only need to protect them until the next year, like spring, summertime, where the seeds have already sprouted. After that, they usually don't damage your saplings. Usually, but they could still do that. So be careful. So what you want to do is dig a hole that is, I would say, 6 to 8 inches deep. You don't need it much deeper than that. So I already dug a hole that's about 6 to 8 inches deep, and then you just drop your walnuts like that. Then you want to get a wire mesh. This wire mesh I have is actually a little bit smaller as far as the mesh size. What you want to do is get a wire mesh where the squirrels cannot get to the black walnuts. So the mesh must be smaller than the, let's say, the radius of the walnut. Okay, so long as you have that, you should be fine. This one I have wire mesh. This is a little bit smaller, but for demonstration purpose it'll work fine. So what you do is after you put your walnuts on the ground, you just want to put a wire mesh on top. Like that. And then you just drop some dirt on it. So what you want to make sure is that the edge of the wire mesh is covered by dirt, so the squirrels cannot flip that corner off and try to get to the black walnuts. So that's one method. One of the problems with this method is that when the walnuts sprout up, they're going to go through the mesh, and then when it comes spring, summertime, you want to transplant your walnuts. You may have a problem because unless you have to snip the mesh or somehow gingerly extract the saplings, and you might damage it. So that's one thing. And plus another problem with this is that after the walnut has sprouted and the squirrels see the walnut, the nut still has a nutty smell. So what may happen is that although your walnuts are sprouted, the squirrels will chew the saplings. So that's a problem. So it doesn't protect it from that. So I'll show you another option you could use. So I will remove the black walnut mesh that I have covering the nuts. Another option is to have a cylindrical tube, and you could use the same side mesh. The important thing is the radius should be no bigger than the walnut size, so the squirrels cannot get it. So what you do is you drop the nuts, and then on top of it you can put your mesh. You could put your mesh, and then the tubular mesh, I mean. So I already dropped the nuts from the previous exercise, so the nuts are inside the tube, and what you want to do is drop some dirt on top so they're covered. They really don't need to be covered too much, but just small amount of dirt. But what you want to make sure is that on the bottom part you want to make sure that it is thoroughly covered, because the chipmunks might go inside from underneath the ground, because the chipmunks are burrow dwelling animals, so they have a habit of doing that. So what you want to do is you want to cover the ground so it's really hard for them to go underneath it. So long as you have maybe 6 inches deep the mesh underground, I think you should be okay. 6 to 8 inches would be good. Then what you want to do is you want to cover the top, because the squirrels and chipmunk will go inside from the top. So what you could do, there are several options you have. You could use a piece of plywood, or you could use another mesh. But if you're going to use the mesh, you need to make sure that where the top part of the mesh and then the cylindrical tubular mesh, there's no gap there. And one way to do it is to put a rock on there. Rock should be heavy enough where the squirrels cannot push it away. Or another option would be to put a plywood or maybe some other object. So what I have here is actually a microwave platter from my old microwave I had. So you can just put it on top. You probably don't need a rock on it because this is glass and it's heavy enough and it'll protect it. One thing that I wanted to mention is that right here the wire tube is about 3 feet, but what may happen is that your walnuts may grow much taller than that. So I would suggest you get maybe a 4 feet wide mesh, and then you can make a tube out of it so that you don't have a problem of the walnuts hitting the ceiling or the top part of the tubular mesh. So the one option's just a suggestion. You don't have to do that, but if you follow these steps, you should, come spring summertime, have some of the black walnuts sprout. And let's see, you don't need to water them or anything. You don't need to, just periodically check if the top cover is still on. If it's not, then check to see if there's still walnuts in there, because chances are, depending on how long you left it open, or not you left it open, but somehow it came open. Maybe a deer or some other animal had pushed the cover down. So check to see if there are walnuts still there. If they are, put the cover back on. If they're not, then you need to start all over again, and hopefully you'll learn your lesson. So hope you find this helpful. Leave us a comment, any suggestions or anything I forgot, and thank you for watching this video. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Bye bye.